Alright guys, I can't keep this to myself anymore. This is fucking killing me. It's putting fucking ulcers in my goddamn stomach, and it's making me lose my goddamn fucking mind. And I know YouTube bitch ass is probably gonna take this motherfucker down, so I'll have to put it on like Odysee or some shit where hardly anybody's going to goddamn see it, because algorithms bury this bitch to no end like a fucking avalanche on Mount Olympus, okay? Or not Mount Olympus, Mount Everest. So I know what's going to fucking happen. I can post all this shit to Odysee or BitChute or something, and I'm going to be screaming into outer space. The motherfuckers who need to see it the most, the youth, the people who are the future of this nation, they're not going to see shit. They're not going to hear shit, and they're not going to see anything that I post on DeviantArt, because if I post it on DeviantArt, it gets taken down for bullshit reasons. It gets taken down because it's like got sexual content even though it doesn't. Or it gets or on ImageFlip, I get harassed by a bunch of trolls that are obviously Mossad. To anyone who's been paying attention to something besides CNN and Fox News for the past 20 years. All right, here we go. Look, motherfuckers, and I'm normally a nice guy, but look, motherfuckers, it's time for some tough love. It's time to be like Jesus, who likes to be nice, but it's time to start flipping fucking tables and chasing y'all around with a goddamn whip. You've had plenty of time to heal from Trump derangement syndrome. You've had plenty of time to lick whatever non-existent wounds happened from the dumb fucks on January 6th. You've had plenty of time to get over what the fuck you were concerned about with Donald Trump, to actually pay goddamn attention to what the fuck is going on. All right? And that is if you think that you stand with Ukraine, but that you're not pushing for us to pull the Nazis out that we put there, if you're not pushing for us to come up with a peace deal with Putin so that we can stop the Ukrainians from dying as a proxy war, which is a fucking war crime, sending them to their deaths in a battle that they're not going to lose, or that it will turn into a third world war, possibly go nuclear and wipe out all of the human race, you motherfuckers don't deserve the air God blessed you with. You do not deserve to breathe, okay? It is God's will that you be cognizant and look at things for what they are. If you are so fucking delusional that I don't know, put chemicals in the water that make the Democrats vote for fucking Nazis, it's time for you to fucking wake up, okay? It's time for you to fucking wake up. I'm tired of having to be nice about something so serious. Your Trump derangement syndrome has made you think that Russia stole the election. No, Russia didn't steal the election, no more than it probably did in the past. You lost the election to Trump because you suck balls. And here's what you need to notice. You think that standing for Ukraine is the righteous thing to do. But if you actually paid attention to what's going on, we installed a Nazi-infested government and military into Ukraine via a coup. Installing a government via coup is a war crime. And we did it with Nazis, just like we funded ISIS to overthrow Assad. But hey, at least under Assad, whenever I started criticizing ISIS, I didn't get accused of being pro-Assad. And I didn't get censored nearly as bad. That's why this is worse. That's why this is fucking worse. But that aside, here's what you did. So we funded a bunch of Nazis to take over Ukraine in the 2014 coup. And those Nazis, for the past 8 years, have killed over 15,000 people. A huge chunk of them they killed in the Donbass region. And a lot of other people in their own home turf, they killed women's rights groups, LGBTQ, Jews, political opponents, and a whole lot of gypsies. They may have just beaten them, they may have killed them, they may have raped them, they may have tortured them. They are torturing political opponents in the street, they are burning people alive. And yes, I know Zelensky is Jewish. It doesn't matter two fucks if the guy is Jewish. You only brought that up because we figured out that y'all infested the place with Nazis. Okay? Jews worked with the Nazis. Jews worked with the Nazis. And a lot of people in Hitler want to model themselves off of Nazis. And even the member of the ADL admits that we should support the Nazis in Ukraine because they're funded by Israeli billionaires. So what do? These Nazis who have blood dripping from their hands, 15,000 dead bodies under their belt. What do? We give them state-of-the-art armor. We give them leftover Soviet-era weapons. We give them leftover outdated American tanks. And you know what they do? They get a bunch of moms with Molotovs, and they get a bunch of teenagers who haven't fired an AK-47 before in their life. They give them 2 days of training, and they're going to march them out to be slaughtered as cannon fodder in the same way that all those third world countries send child soldiers to get blown up. Speaking of children getting blown up for shit, this is no better than how in the Vietnam War, the Viet Cong, they would get a baby, they would strap dynamite on the baby, and then they would send the dynamite-strapped baby to the Americans, because the Americans would have to do one of two things: shoot the baby before it got to them so they don't get blown up, or let the baby get close to them and blow them up, and it would demoralize them. The same thing with some of the terrorists that we funded in the Middle East did. And you know what? That's what we're doing to the Ukrainians now. You're not standing with Ukraine against Russia. You're not protecting Ukraine from Russia. You're setting them up to get killed. You are strapping dynamite basically on these mothers with Molotovs and these poor teenagers who only had 2 days of basic training. Whenever combat happens, they're going to freeze up and they're going to get lined up against the wall and shot if they're fucking lucky. You do not love the Ukrainian people. You are sacrificing them on the altar of big tech, big oil, the American hegemony, a bunch of people who have admitted they want to wage a proxy war against Putin to bleed him for a future conflict. Okay? And this is going to go down one of several ways. One, we actually come to our senses and we make a peace agreement with Putin that gives him what he wants, which is, Donbass region having some autonomy. We denazify Ukraine ourselves, and we make Ukraine a neutral country, which would actually be the buffer zone that both sides want, that both NATO and Russia want. Ukraine being neutral would be the buffer zone both sides need, both sides want. All right? Or we could sacrifice the Ukrainians to go to war with Russia, and Putin turns it into a parking lot. We had a bunch of Ukrainians die just to weaken Putin for a future conflict. That's a good case scenario. A bad case scenario is if it goes fucking nuclear and we all fucking die. And then we go and look at the nuclear wasteland like some bullshit from Fallout New Vegas, and we basically say, it's okay that we have a bunch of goddamn raiders and super mutants all over the place. We sure showed Putin, who is somehow worse than Hitler, when a bunch of Jews in Hollywood start saying that Putin was worse than Hitler and that Hitler's gas chambers don't somehow count as chemical weapons. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. But hey, why should I have any faith in a bunch of Jews in Hollywood when the member of the ADL says it's okay to fund fucking Nazis because they're supported by Israeli billionaires? Guess what? If a bunch of Christians in America funded ISIS so that ISIS went around chopping off people's heads and raping women in the Middle East, and those women happen to be Arab Christians, happen to be Palestinian Christians, well, guess what? It's okay because they're funded by a bunch of rich white people who may or may not actually be Christians. Oh, I guess it's okay then. I guess it's okay. Holy shit. Do you see what I'm working with now? I post memes of this on DeviantArt, and like 17 of my memes get taken down after I'm being harassed by a bunch of, trolls. All these memes get taken down, and they can't even give me a good reason. They direct me to a website that says our policies, and it's about sexual content. There is zero sexual content, minus how fucked up it is. I don't even know how long I'll be able to keep this on YouTube. I'll put it on YouTube for the hell of it, but I'm probably just going to have to put this on Odysee where nobody will see it. And I can't share it on DeviantArt. Big shock, because DeviantArt goes around and they suppressed anything coming from Iran or Syria for a while. They said it was because they were hostile to us, but what about the civilians who don't like their government over there, but they know who's funding ISIS? Okay? Holy shit. A lot of people who talked about ISIS being funded by Israel in the West, they weren't exactly super happy about Putin. They just realized ISIS was worse. Oh yeah, and be on the lookout, just giving you a little down low, be on the lookout for this bad faith argument that comes up that every time you say we shouldn't be funding Nazis, they say, so Putin gets to invade? Almost nobody says that. Almost nobody that I've talked to that agrees with me thinks Putin is good. Almost nobody thinks that he should invade. It's just kind of like the worst they say is that we started this fight. which from what I can see is pretty true. But they immediately start out with this bad faith argument that if you talk about this, you're somehow some kind of troll of Putin. I'm sorry, a lot of people in Russia are criticizing Putin. Nobody is saying that Putin should do it. Even people in Russia are saying that Putin shouldn't do it, and they're suffering for it. The only difference between Putin and our bullshit is that Putin gets away with beating them, whereas us, we get silenced with these algorithms and these big tech things. But hey, maybe it's not that we're any better than Russia. Maybe we just know how to do it more efficiently without getting caught. Anyway, I just thought you should know that. I had to get this out of my system. I've had a boner for telling this truth for a long time, and being suppressed has given me emotional blue balls. And quite frankly, I'm tired of getting suppressed. I may not be a hero. I may technically be an armchair slacktivist, but you know what? Anyone can spread the truth. And maybe I'm not a hero. Maybe I was somebody in the military who didn't see combat, but I was intel. And you know what? I have some compassion for my fellow human beings, and I have some loyalty to my country. So I speak out, and then I either get censored or I get demonized as being pro-Putin. And it's really sad how ironically some of the biggest people who want to censor me for or talk down to me for being against funding actual Nazis is the far left. It's people who called everybody a Nazi. They called people Nazis, whether they were or not. They got people canceled. They got people fired. They got people harassed. Some of the people they canceled were assholes, but they weren't Nazis. So the thing is that all these people who called everybody under the sun, they went and punched you in the face if they thought you were a Nazi. Were some of them Nazis? Yeah, fuck the actual Nazis. Obviously, but they went and they attacked other people that they just didn't like. They didn't just stop at Nazis. They didn't just stop at right-wingers. They didn't just stop at people who are assholes. They gave this treatment to people who are on the center left who disagreed with them. But that's a whole nother can of fucking worms. Anywho, hey, I can't talk about Nazis on YouTube without getting demonetized, but they sure can send my tax dollars to support the motherfuckers to the tune of $33 billion and counting. To the tune of $33 billion, while the rest of us are having to deal with inflation, bad wages, and all of that. Well, it's like instead of actually spending money on health care or infrastructure or taking care of homeless veterans or any of that stuff, no, we're going to send $33 billion. We're not going to take care of people who may or may not have suffered from the pandemic. It's going to go to either militarizing the cops who have been cross-trained by Israel to act like Nazis, or it's going to go to motherfucking actual Nazis, the real deal, in Ukraine, and I'm going to be silenced for it. I wasn't making money on these damn videos anyway, but if I did, I would get demonetized, so either I lose money on behalf of exposing Nazis, or my tax dollars goes to Nazis anyway. If there's a God, I pray that he spares those of us who weren't okay with this, because if he wants to judge us for sending money to Nazis that have already killed over 15,000 people, after we claim to be against that shit, I hope that he spares us. I don't know if we're going to escape this, because karma can't be mocked this long. And I wish the rest of you good day.